Hello everybody and welcome. My name is Tim from the Cam Compound and it's time for our daily technical analysis video. Let's get right to it. I have in front of me the Bitcoin US dollar 1-day chart and we see we have had an interesting day. Over the past couple of, well, almost a week now actually, we've been talking about this support zone around 16,700 to 16,800. And what we see right here is that today we pierced through, pierced under, all the way down to 16,560 approximately. However, we also had a fairly decent recovery today, which is good because we were talking about the peers back up here above the support zone and that we want to see a confirmation. Well, yesterday that didn't happen. Today that is unlikely to happen too, but we do see that there is still a lot of interest in buying and defending this support area right here, meaning that we still have a decent chance of confirming above. For this, I would kind of like to see a close above that 17,000 area approximately. I think that would be about good. And then we can continue onwards towards the 17,200, possibly towards the 17,600. And like we've been talking about recently, it would stand to reason that we create a new range right here to just kind of stabilize the market. Then we have a deviation above towards 18,500 and a deviation below, a bit less volatile but a bit more time-wise, so that evens out approximately. And then we could continue onwards to create a base here between 17,600 and 16,700, slowly moving up the price just that much, but it is, well, it's still a good thing to see. That is kind of that on the daily. Let's quickly zoom in. We see here that the downwards channel is still somewhat intact. We had a break below, was a fake out, and now we're back in, and now we're moving back up to the top of the channel, meaning that we could still, if we have a decent close in like 3 hours, then we could still go for a breakout upwards, and that could bring us towards, let's measure it, say take this, that's about 480, bit less. If we break out here, 480 would bring us to about, well, 17,300, 200 approximately. So that is kind of the area that we were talking about as well, which would be a nice confluence. And then between that 17,000 to 300 to 17,600, we have a resistance area, which makes sense. And that is kind of what we're expecting for the moment. Now, it is good to see that Bitcoin is kind of holding on to some power so that the market doesn't immediately completely crash back towards its lows. That being said, Bitcoin is still being very strong relatively speaking, although we have seen a rejection here of this level, which is definitely an important one because here Bitcoin created a resistance. We had 4 taps now and were rejected. Generally speaking, after 3 taps, this now becomes a minor resistance and more easily breakable, but we didn't and were rejected instead, which makes perfect sense, meaning that we could move back here towards that 41.7 approximately, giving altcoins a bit more breathing space, especially if the USDT, yes, there we go, that's what we'd like to see. This is the USDT resistance, or not resistance, it's also a resistance, but USDT dominance, and we do see that it again failed to break its resistance, meaning that we have a heightened chance of moving back down towards that 7.9 to 8% approximately, which would give an impulse to the market, a bullish impulse, that is. Let us move on towards Ethereum. Let's have a look, because this is the proxy for the alt market, of course. And we see here that Ethereum had a wildly volatile day. And this is definite bear market volatility. That may sound weird, but there's very little liquidity in the market. There's very little actually happening. And because there is so little people in the market, it is fairly easy to manipulate price and to kind of just shoot up and down all over the place. So this is bear market right there. That being said, we do see that Ethereum managed to defend its little range right here. I am very curious to see what that looks like on the 4 hour. It's an absolute disaster. It is trying to break out despite this fake out here. Fake out because it couldn't confirm. Now it's back up. If it can close, let's say above 1220, that would be great. And we have a fairly free shot up towards 1240, 1260 approximately, which would give some life back into the alt market, which it desperately needs. Everything except XRD, which is just flatlining, which is nice to see after all this volatility that it's kind of stabilizing at least a little bit. DYDX is going through its own issues right here. As we can see, it did break this trend line, which I'm not a big fan of. It did I did tap this again, but I'm still thinking we might go back towards the $1. So I am looking for either another option to get in at 112 or at 1. So one of those. Then let's quickly go over to Matic. We see that Matic is actually holding up fairly decently at this support right here, the 0.768-ish, which is decent. So Matic is also just doing what it's good at doing, staying in the range. There's nothing too scary happening here. We can clear out a couple of lines. There we go. And then there. So it's in a bit of a broadening wedge. It's not really making a clean pattern. It's just showing that it's respecting this support, which is great. Which is fine for the moment. So if there is a bit of a resurgence in the market, there's a good chance Matic will come with it. And lastly, a quick look at AVE. While we're here, we see that AVE is kind of similar to Matic and is having a sidewards consolidation. If there is a resurgence, good chance that AVE too will continue upwards. Probably back towards that 63 and maybe even the 68. And that is kind of it for what we're seeing in the market currently. There is just a lot of uncertainty. Most things are consolidating, and Bitcoin and Ethereum are kind of fighting to see whether they want to go back up or back down, and in that fight is currently quite a bit of uncertainty. So keep calm, keep cool, keep compounding, don't do anything rash, and just relaxedly keep waiting, keep stacking. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye.